What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of The Trenches on Sherdog.com. I am Anthony Walker, joined once again by a man who at this point probably doesn't need an introduction. He is a mogul in this MMA media field. He is a legend, one of the greats of our generation, Mr. Jason Burgos, also known as Captain Credential. Jason Burgos, how are you doing today, brother?
I mean, when you say mogul, I automatically think P. Diddy. I never really fancied myself a P. Diddy, but, I could take that. I could do a little bit of that. So, maybe.
Yeah, little Harlem Shake for you. I can see it. I can see it working for you. But I say it because I've seen you've made some of the rounds, some guest appearances and on other podcasts and whatnot. I see you doing the damn thing, Jason.
I mean, it's not Collider level like some fancy folks out there, but I mean, I'm trying to do some things. I'm trying to make my way out there. I'm trying to get on the level of the world-renowned, Beeman himself, Anthony Walker. So I'm doing what I can to keep the level and stay at that level, So
I see our petty levels are at an all-time high today. Top petty today. All right, so I guess we might as well get into it because it is Valentine's Day after all, and we both have ladies, and they both are very patient because they're dealing with our shit right now.
Yes.
I've got dinner plans with the wife, so we're gonna go ahead and jump right to it, and we're gonna get right into the shits. All right, so question number one. It's from the homie Frank McEgger. What's up, Frank? Appreciate you participating again. He says, what fight makes the most sense for the middleweight title given the unfortunate situation this past weekend at UFC 234?
Well, it's funny too because you mentioned I was on, I guess, on a podcast. Shout out to Around the Cage on the Loudmouth Network. They brought up what should happen next with the middleweight title, and I thought the same thing. And most of the other guys kind of said similar ideas. Yeah, it should be kind of Kelvin Gastelum. I mean, that would be the fair thing. That would be, the right thing to do. But I tell you, based on the fact that this guy, Dana White was very non-committal about what's next with that fight and isn't saying, oh, yeah, we're going to make that thing happen in June, July, for this event. I really, my guts feel like it might be Adesanya. I really feel like it might end up being him. They sold out the event, 15,000 in Australia. It's odd that Australia is not necessarily a community that loves MMA, but the contingent of MMA fans there is really getting strong, and it seems like a bit of a hotbed that's doing pretty well. They're going to like Australia more than they're going to places like Boston and like even like parts of Florida. They never go to Miami, but they're going to Australia. So I could see them saying, you know what, Adesanya's on fire. Whittaker's a big star. Let's go to like a stadium again, like we do with Ronda and Holly Holm, and try to do like a stadium show with those two headlines. I just feel like that's WME, IMG, UFC these days. All about the money.
Yeah, man, I kind of see that happening too. But I think the main factor is going to be how fast can Robert Whittaker get back in the cage. Very true. They said that he was I guess going to be out of training for like 4 to 6 weeks, according to renowned medical professional and an Oscar-winning screenwriter and Hollywood personality Matt Damon. That might not be the case. So I mean, if Matt Damon says it, it must be true.
Come on, it's Good Will Hunting. I mean, come on.
How do you deny the truth coming from Jason Bourne's mouth? I don't know, but I find that to be the main factor because if Whittaker can't come back in a reasonable amount of time, and I'll use the word reasonable for relative interpretation because the UFC has all sorts of other definitions for words like reasonable. But if he can't come back in a timely fashion, and I would estimate it around International Fight Week, because that would be a great showcase for him versus either Kelvin Gastelum or Israel Adesanya. I think they're going to go with an interim title between Adesanya and probably Kelvin Gastelum. Because you just don't want to open up the possibility. Like say Jacare, you put him there. You don't want to open up the possibility that Jacare ends up being the guy to welcome Robert Whittaker back. And considering what Whittaker did to him just about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. So that would probably be the preferred route. If Whittaker can't make it back in a timely fashion, you go interim, you go Gastelum, you go Adesanya, and let the chips fall where they fall. But if he is back in a timely fashion, Um, I have a feeling they're going to take it for Adesanya, man. They're going to take that away from Gastelum, and that's definitely not the right thing to do. I mean, if you put him in this position, you promoted him to be the title challenger. You had the posters with his name on it and his face on it, and you paraded him. Yeah, exactly. A whole season of Tough dedicated to it. Although like 7 people watch Tough now, you still devoted resources to promoting him as a title challenger, and it's really hard to justify just snatching that away from him. You know, even if you have a star like Adesanya on the rise. So that's kind of where I see this going. For Gastelum's sake, he better hope Whittaker is not going to be ready to come back by International Fight Week, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's go with question number 2 from Yo Jimbo. And yes, I still know how to pronounce your name right. Cris Cyborg appeared at the WWE Performance Center this week, and she also didn't rule out signing with Bellator in the future. How much stock should we take in this news?
I mean, you should take it. I wouldn't say seriously, but it's notable. It's important. I mean, I would say more the Bellator thing. You know, the WWE flirtation, that's just flirtation. I mean, and she's been throwing out having a match with Ronda Rousey and all this stuff. I personally don't know if she'd do as well as Ronda has been doing stunningly well in this first year in wrestling. But you know, there's interest. It's easier money than fighting. But Cain Velasquez went to the Performance Center, I think, like 4 or 5 months ago, maybe or less. So I mean, and look, he's fighting, so it's not nothing to worry about. Bellator would be the bigger thing. Bellator, even PFL, because Bellator, she has a standing relation with Scott Coker. They did big things, be it when it was like the Elite XC Strikeforce kind of pairing that they used to do co-promoted brands, or then when she went to Strikeforce, became their biggest female star until Ronda came. So they have a relationship there. She trusts him. She likes him. You know, she'd like to work for him. That would be the thing I'd be more concerned about and take as newsworthy than the Performance Center part.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Performance Center they seem to just have it open for any high-profile athlete that wants to come by and check it out and get a good workout. And more problem to them. That's great. And of course, the intertwined relationship between mixed martial arts and pro wrestling. There are going to be fighters that are very well known in the MMA world that are just going to want to check it out. They just want to learn how to take a bump and throw somebody over the top rope just to say they did it. And that's, if I were one of them, I would take advantage of such an opportunity just to kind of get it off your bucket list. And I don't see it as anything more than that. Bellator would definitely be the bigger threat. And now, especially with Amanda Nunes not exactly seeming like she's not too interested in doing an immediate rematch with Cyborg, then you got to think that, okay, what's the future of the women's 145-pound division? And if that's the case, where does that leave Cyborg? And Cyborg, if nothing else, she has always been very good at negotiating what she wants and negotiating all of her terms. And she's done this before. Like, she has been at odds with the UFC, and Dana has trashed her in the press conferences only for her to come back and headline a show. So I think if Scott Coker can get in her ear while Amanda Nunes is kind of doing whatever she decides to do, including her flirtations with dropping down to 125, which is completely nuts and just I don't think it's even humanly possible. Then it makes sense for Cyborg to start wearing the Bellator gloves. But until then, or even PFL, because they need opponents for Kayla Harrison. So yeah, but WWE don't even worry about that. Everybody, she'll be back in the UFC before WWE for sure.
You know what's fascinating is that there's this weird sort of resistance to Cyborg getting the immediate rematch, and I get it. A rematch doesn't make sense when somebody gets blasted like she did. Totally understandable. And the people that want to be resistant to Cormier, Stipe, I get it. Because you know what? You can make a case for other contenders. If this girl is going to be a 2-division champion, she either needs to say, one, I'm going to go defend that 135-pound title, or I'm going to defend the 145. And honestly, maybe people don't want a rematch. Who else would fight her for the title? Who else is title worthy in that division? Is it Holly Holm? I guess. But I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think she should really be the rematch? Should that be really the next fight for the 145 title?
Well, really, what I think threw the monkey wrench in the plans was Kat Zingano catching Megan Anderson's toe in her eye.
Yeah.
Because that fight would have established a very clear number one contender.
Yeah.
You know, it's been no secret that that the Cyborg and Megan Anderson fight was something that everybody really wanted. Invicta, you know, was moving in that direction before Cyborg left to go to the UFC. The UFC signed Megan for this purpose and this purpose alone, to fight Cyborg. With that, and then also with history with Kat Zingano, with Nunes, there's definitely a path to another 145-pound fight if the circumstances line themselves up correctly. But of course, they did not. So if you put that rematch together between Kat and Megan in a timely fashion, then all right, let the winner of that one fight Amanda, and then we can say, okay, she defended that belt. Maybe Cyborg take another beat up on someone else who decides to eat a few sandwiches and move up from 135. And then maybe you can put together that rematch and it would have been earned in the eyes of the public or in the eyes of Nunes even. That I think would probably be the best path. But I just don't really see that. I don't see the call. I mean, I get that. Yes, she defended her title for so long, but this whole immediate rematch after getting knocked out in the first round thing, I just don't like it. I simply don't like it. I think it ruined Joanna at 115. It's ruined Cody Garbrandt at 135. Granted, his was a second round knockout, but you get the idea. At least the first fight. So you can't. I just don't like the idea of you losing so decisively, and then you're thrust right back into that same position to completely undo the work that was done before. Let these rematches build up, and this is another one. Let it build up, because as being in the building for UFC 232 and seeing the crowd reaction to Nunes Cyborg as opposed to Jones Gustafsson. From where I was sitting, it sounded like the crowd was much more into the Cyborg versus Nunes fight. Maybe that's a product of Cyborg's popularity in Southern California. Each and every time I've seen her somewhere, seen her at a fight or seen her around a gym or something like that, she attracts a lot of positive attention. So maybe it's the bias of Southern California speaking here. But I say build it up and do it right and make it even bigger than it was. So.
And that's how rough that division is. And with everything you said, it's totally right, and it's probably the right thing to do. But if they did a rematch, it wouldn't be a bad thing, even on a booking level, because if Megan Anderson is, like you said, fairly the next best option, especially if she would won. I mean, she's still coming off a loss, though. She lost to Holly Holm. And if Holly Holm is a better option since she beat Megan, I was just looking up. Holly Holm is 2-4 in her last 6, and she's a glorified bantamweight up in featherweight. Like, that's how weak that division is. That the champion is really a bantamweight who went up. The best fighter's still there, just lost quickly. The next best legitimate featherweight lost and had a weird win, and the one after that is a blown up, bantamweight who may be on the downturn of her career anyway. It's just like featherweight in the UFC has always just been a cluster F. And I kind of wish Cyborg would go, because I feel like if she left, sort of like Demetrius Johnson, it might just signal to the end of the division that needs to go, unlike flyweight that doesn't need to go.
Right. I mean, the division has technically existed for how long now? And there isn't even anything remotely resembling a top 10 ranking.
Nope.
There are what? 2 actual natural featherweights in the division, and everyone else has, like you said, been blown up bantamweights, including the original champion that we've all forgotten about, Jermaine Durandamy.
Yeah, yes. Yep.
So and even Holly Holm wants the Nunes fight at 135, which I think actually would be much more appropriate for them to fight at 135. And I mean, this division is barely that. Like, if it only exists as a function to promote Cyborg, which is fine, which is totally fine, and she's a big money maker, and I think that's a legitimate enough reason for the division to exist. But I mean, come on now, like, you can't have that division without her unless a big star emerges, and everything that they've tried so far just doesn't seem to be working out. So I think that division's gonna leave soon.
And it's like
man,
that
was super trash.
and it's like that everywhere, because even Bellator, who has Julia Budd, they really are dying for Cyborg to go there so Julia Budd can fight her, because Julia Budd's starting to have an issue with legitimate contenders. Like, I interviewed Amber Leibrook, who's on the card on Friday, and we talked about how if she would have beat Arlene Blencow, she might have got a title shot. She's only was 3-1 now, 3-2, and an Invicta veteran. Like, 3-2 fighters who may be 4-2, if she wins, she might be in the running for a title shot. 4-2. I mean, it's just like, it's always been such a weak division, man. It's unfortunate. It's weird how, I mean, either another promotion don't have it. PFL didn't even do featherweight. They went to lightweight. Like, the fact that they can't get a lot of talented women to go in there and fight, it's weird. This has been a problem for like 10, 12 years now.
Yeah, and Jay also just updated us saying that the UFC actually pulled the rankings category for women's featherweight on their website entirely. Wow. So it's not even like they used to hint that something was coming soon. Now they just said the hell with it. Nothing. That's it. It's a wrap, son. Yeah, man. That's wild, man. They just snatched the joint off of there, man.
Just hoping no one notices. Hope they didn't see that.
Yeah. Dang, and I was about to say like a really good point. I totally forgot what it was, man. Oh well. Oh man, I'm so trash.
You got them all messed up in your stats game.
Man, definitely threw me for a loop. All right, so let's go to a question from you know who it is. You know it. He gets every week. My man gets the Kung Fu Bao. Europe 1. He asks. Well, at first, he starts off with a very declarative statement, a statement that I wouldn't get too excited about just yet. He says, Kane is back! Exclamation point. Word is that NASA's best mathematicians are currently trying to figure out how long he has been gone. I'm loving where this is going. All right. Why are some fighters like Kane just so injury prone and wear out so quickly? Meanwhile, Tito Ortiz is 44 and has had a 20-plus year career, but is still remarkably healthy considering the circumstances. What is the X factor, or is it just plain luck?
No X factor. That is just life. That's why there's those people that will eat clean, eat vegetables, no carbs, work out every day, and they'll randomly die and have some kind of illness at like 55. But then you've got those people that have been drinking, liquor every day, bacon every day, don't work out, and they live to like 95 years old. That's just some people's tire tread is just better than others. No matter what you do. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do to maintain. Of course, you can do health, all these things, but there's just some people that their body are just not built for it, and like it's just the weirdness of life. There's just some people like that. Kane is unfortunate that he's just Dominic Cruz, another one. That guy's phenomenal shape. He's very smart. He probably does all the things necessary. He's very professional about everything he has to do. And then something tears or something breaks. It's just people are made differently, and it's just like the uniqueness of human society and uniqueness of sports, because the same thing happens in all the other sports too. Look at Bo Jackson, one of the greatest running backs ever. He had like a freak injury and got knocked out. Derrick Rose, one of the greatest pure athletes basketball's ever seen. He tears an ACL, doesn't recover from it, never the same. But Russell Westbrook, he tears an ACL. He's back, and he became MVP the first player who knows how long to have a triple-double season. Just people are built differently.
Yeah, I mean, when you just named a few other athletes from different sports, like other names, Gilbert Arenas comes to mind. Guy who one micro fracture in his knee, and he was never the same. Sam Bowie, who never got off the ground with a freak injury earlier. Greg Oden, another a great example of that. So, but one consistent line that I see with Kane and Dominic Cruz are these are guys whose styles are based off of lots of cardio and lots of activity and motion. Yeah. Now, I think it could be entirely possible that the amount of training it takes to get your body able to last as long as they do and to keep pushing such a dramatic pace, like it breaks you down. It can really break you down. And if you don't recover properly, it can happen. Now, I know this has made the rounds for some years now, but do you remember those very frightful videos of Cain Velasquez doing like weight training a couple years ago? I mean, it was like scary looking stuff. Like the form was all wrong, and he's got too much weight for certain exercises. So if you're training incorrectly, even if it gives you some sort of cardio advantage, or you're stronger for a time, or you're just intimidating, keep a pace and all this other stuff, man, a lot of that stuff will break you down.
You know what? Let me just throw one thing. Tony Ferguson. Because if you've seen his videos of workouts, they don't make no damn sense. But he never got hurt. It took a cable to hurt him.
Yeah, I mean, but Tony Ferguson is also a freak of nature. Tony Ferguson is not a regular human being.
I think he's an alien.
He is something above us. Like I think
Men in Black are watching him.
When the MCU incorporates the X-Men, it's gonna be, instead of the X gene, it will be the Ferguson gene.
Yes.
Tony Ferguson is like, we need to have a separate show about his insanity, man. But he also was a fitness professional. So he has a real education and background in how to train the human body and how to rehab properly and whatnot. So and there is, you know, a method to some of his madness there. And actually, I seriously doubt that that's how he trains every day. Like he's
trolling us.
Yeah, honestly, I think he is trolling us. You know, he's that guy. If you ask me. But yeah, man, I think there is a correlation between the amount of cardio that a guy like Cain, especially at heavyweight, to be able to push that pace at heavyweight, that's a lot of mass to move around. That's a lot of pressure on your knees. That's a lot of pressure on your shoulders. That's a lot of pressure on your lower back and your neck and all the rest of your joints, man. That I think would be the reason why. But then you add the factor of maybe your body, just for whatever reason, just isn't strong in that sense. It's not, you're just injury prone because you just got handed a bad hand. All right, so let's see who we got next. We got the poll question. The poll question this week is, what fight are you most excited for this weekend? MVP versus Daley has gotten 32% of the vote. 11% say Crow Cop versus Nelson. Wow, surprised it's that high. 0% for Kongo versus Minnick 2. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. Ngannou Kane is 32%, and 51% is. Oh shit! I got this all wrong. 51%. Thank you. Yeah, I'm reading this all wrong. All right, you know what, Jason? Just tell me what. Just read it.
51% like Ngannou and Kane the most. 32% like MVP and Daley. 11% like Crow Cop and Nelson. Honestly, I'm not surprised by that because those are two just uber fan favorites. So I'm not surprised at interest. And a few percent for other fights, but 0% for Kongo Minnick. That's nuts for a guy that actually has articles that's already on Kongo and should be soon on Minnick. I was actually get some stuff from him. That's surprising because I think it's a hugely important relevancy. You know, the winner's going to get a title shot, Coker said. And then Minnick's undefeated. He was the champion of Bellator before he left to have these contract issues. Never been beaten. Solid, legitimate heavyweight outside the UFC. Kongo's on a 7-fight win streak on one of the better runs of his career. He's knocking people out, finishing them. Like, that's a hell of a fight. And the winner, it's interesting to see that Bader, his first title defense at heavyweight, is going to be a legitimate heavyweight. It is not going to be a smallish guy or a guy who's from another division. This is going to be a legit heavyweight. So I'm fascinated by that fight. But before I make my choice, what is your favorite that you're most looking forward to that?
MVP Daley is the only answer that I will accept. That is it. And I'll tell you, and it's not because I want to knock any of the other fights. Well, actually, I'll knock a couple of them. But all right. So first off, before I praise MVP Daley and my excitement about that, Kongo Minnick, as important of a fight as it is, their first fight wasn't quite doing it from an entertainment standpoint. And Chet Kongo has a habit. I mean, I know he's had some finishes as of late, but throughout most of his career, he's had a lot of stinkers. He's had a lot of fights that just really weren't very fun to watch.
He was in Kongo Barry.
Yeah. He was in that.
Kongo was good too.
Mir Kongo. Oh yeah. Mir slept him. That's right. With the guillotine choke. Yeah, I mean, every so often Kongo will find himself in an exciting fight, but for the most part, that doesn't happen. So I can see why nobody's checking for that. Crow Cop Nelson, like, no. I mean, granted, the picture of Crow Cop looking like he just took all the steroids. all right, that's yeah. So Crow Cop took all the steroids, and Roy Nelson ate all the cheeseburgers, and now we put them against each other. But they fought already when they were, or at least Nelson was pretty much in his prime, and Crow Cop was still at least a legitimate heavyweight contender. I guess maybe he was at that time.
He was a heavyweight. I don't know if he was a contender.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So I'm like, whatever. I don't really care about that. What was it? Ngannou Kane? Like, I just refuse to get excited about it until Kane is actually in the octagon. I just refuse to devote any emotion, any energy to entertaining the possibility that Cain Velasquez is actually back until Bruce Buffer is saying his name and he is safely in the cage. And even then, I'm afraid he might slip right after he touches gloves with Ngannou and they walk back to their corners. So I'm holding my breath on that one. But MVP Daley is going to be like a contest between, first of all, it's part of this welterweight Grand Prix, which looks fantastic. Second, MVP has been styling on fools, and we've been wanting to see him fight a legitimate welterweight. So I just, now we finally get to see it, and it's not, and it's not a wrestler. It's not a guy who's going to take him down and I'm sure the day will come. He's going to fight a wrestler, and we're going to see does his takedown defense really hold up and against a high level pressure wrestler. But man, we get to see him strike with like a serious kickboxer with stunning knockout power, and they hate each other. And it's two brothers. I'm happy. What about you, Jason? Which one are you most pumped for?
I'm gonna have to disagree with you, and I talked about this on around the cage too. On a right now level, technically, yeah, MVP Daley is fun, but like for me, it's like right now and what it matters in the division. And MVP Daley, as technically sounds it is, I don't think it's gonna be a close fight. For one, watching the press video, I don't like Paul Daley's body language. And then two, just seeing the size difference for a guy that plays such a great long game, I just think he's going to piece up Paul Daley. I mean, maybe Paul Daley's surprising, but I think that fight's going to be different. And to me, the real test, like you just mentioned, this guy's got to fight a grappler. Once he gets in there with a Neiman Gracie, Ed Ruth, John Fitch, or Rory McDonald, well, Rory McDonald, he's still not ready for him. But somebody like that, that's the test. That's like Adesanya fighting Brunson. What we knew, okay, Brunson's going to stand, but when he could wrestle and when he got those takedowns and he went for he defended him, that's like, okay, this guy's for real. Like, we still need to see that from this guy. And I've watched fights with MVP, and he has a very meh resume. He got taken down, held against the cage by some okay fighters. So that fight is like great fun, but I don't know what it's really going to prove long term other than setting up a great fight with Lima in the next round. But for me, like Ngannou and Velasquez is great because one, hopefully he's been away for 2 years or so. Hopefully if Kane has his health issues in check and he's got things worked out, we're getting the best heavyweight of all time back into the sport right at the perfect time as his close friend, the current heavyweight champion, may be preparing to leave. So if we can get that addition of Kane back into the division, maybe we get Kane and Stipe, which we've all wanted. Maybe we get Kane and John Jones. He can avenge things for Daniel Cormier. That fascinates me, that addition to the division long term for the next 3 years. And if not, if Ngannou wins and Ngannou sleeps Cain Velasquez, the greatest heavyweight champion, back-to-back impressive wins after the clusterfuck turds he laid up his last two fights, maybe we get scary Ngannou back, and maybe that's interesting. So, I mean, I always like the heavyweights. Those fights really affect the top of the division right away. And for as much as I dislike Cain Velasquez for so many years, I'm excited to see him back in the cage on Saturday night.
You dislike Cain Velasquez?
I didn't really I guess his lack of personality just didn't do it. And that's not to say I need cocky guys, but he was just so boring. Like, he was like Fedor without the aura. Like Fedor can get away with his stuff because he has the aura. Like, he was just meh. And I like Dos Santos. I was a big Dos Santos fan. So to see him absolutely maul Dos Santos 2 times in a row and then beat my boy Brock, just really ending the facade that was Brock. Yeah, I like Cain. But I like you now, Cain. I like you.
Yeah, see, I can kind of relate to that because I had a little grudge against Kongo for a while because I'm a big Pat Barry fan. So that hurt my feelings a lot to see Pat Barry lose like that. But that's a whole nother story. But see, everything you said, I totally agree with. However, I don't trust Kane to get in the cage. Like, that's it. Because that is by far the most relevant fight, the biggest fight that we're having this weekend, just on pure name and what it means for the divisions and everything. But MVP Daley gives you some of that. It gives you a taste of a prospect who might be able to do some great things. It gives you a style matchup, which sounds fun. And then also it does have title implications because it's part of this welterweight Grand Prix. So it takes care of those things on a smaller scale, but I actually trust that Paul Daley and MVP will enter the cage on Saturday night. So as far as the body language you're talking about, what was because I didn't watch and I haven't seen any of the press stuff leading up to this Bellator. So what was up with Daley's body language?
Well, I'll preface it by saying first that for all the craziness Paul Daley did that night that he tried to go into the crowd to attack MVP, he's been very resistant and kind of mad when the fight was trying to be made. So it seemed like for a time he really didn't want to take the fight. And then going into this fight at the press conference, they meet, they do their face off. Of course, this guy's doing his snake thing, but Paul Daley completely turns away and he's just like looking away. It was like reverse John Jones. John Jones is kind of facing the guy, but he just completely looked away and I didn't sense from looking at him as Paige is looking at him with his snake, smiling, maniacally. I didn't sense confidence. I felt like he's searching for a mental edge and isn't quite sure how to find it. It was just awkward to me. It wasn't like, oh man, that was impressive. It was like, oh, some people did look at it that way. I didn't like how I didn't feel good about it. Like I saw a confident man and I saw someone who's kind of somewhere in the middle, not sure how this fight's gonna go.
Yeah, and as far as the style matchup itself, like keep in mind, like as I'm favoring MVP to win. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because we got the who you got. But whatever, I'll just repeat it then. I'm thinking MVP is gonna win this, but let's keep in mind how Lorenz Larkin was giving Daley the business, and then all of a sudden he wasn't because he was asleep. And Paul Daley always has that X factor about him. So once again, MVP versus Daley is the only correct answer. Damn all of you who disagree.
Well, let me add this also about Kane. I guarantee Kane will be there. No problem. He will. Trust me, he will be there Saturday night. The question is where he's going to screw us all is when we get all excited. He looks amazing. We're like, oh, shit, Kane, man, Kane Stipe, Kane made a title fight. And then the fight's like a month away and he has to pull out. That's where he's going to fuck us all in the butt.
Yeah. That the imagery. All right, so we're gonna go ahead with the Who You Got segment for Bellator 216 to start. Now, Crow Cop versus Roy Nelson, the sequel. Who you got?
You know what's funny is when Jay sent the email to make the picks, I looked up Crow Cop, and Jay, if you can verify, I think he's like on a 7-fight win streak. It's like the quietest 7-fight win streak from a legendary figure I've ever seen in my life. So he's on a 7-fight win streak. But I tell you, when you look at Roy Nelson, you can go back like 3 or 4 years. And Jay, if you have time for that quickly, like give me like Roy Nelson's like last 6 losses. When you look at his losses, there's no kind of, damn, he lost to him. There's none of that. He lost to all good fighters. And more times than not, he went to decision. And some of his losses are very questionable. Like Derek Lewis, I thought he beat him. The Matt Mitrione fight could have been a draw. I thought that was probably a 10-8 third round. He's so tough despite getting knocked out. Damn, Jay just said 9-fight win streak, 9 finishes. That's nuts. Quietest 9-fight win streak in history. But Roy Nelson, despite his age, despite the wear and tear in his body, it took Mark Hunt and Karatanov to actually finish him. And even the Karatanov one, it maybe could have went longer, but he was probably stopped anyway. But he's still durable, still tough, still got that hammer fist. Like, I don't trust Crow Cop's chin, and I'm just if they all things come down to it, Roy can still try to go for a takedown and get him on the ground, probably just pummel him on the ground. So I think Roy won the first fight, right?
Yeah, he won the first fight by KO or TKO.
Yeah. I see the same thing happening. The Crow Cop will look good early, kind of running around, and then you'll just get haymaker from hell. He'll hurt him, you know. And also, Jay gave us Roy Nelson's last losses. Karatonov, good fighter. Mitrione, close, but good, solid heavyweight. Alexander Volkov, who's a step away from being in the number one contender spot in the UFC, and former Bellator champion. Derek Lewis, which I thought he won. Josh Barnett, which was, I think, decision. Overeem, which is a decision. Hunt knocked him out. And Cormier and Stipe. Look at that's like some of the best heavyweights on the planet he lost to, and most of them a decision. So Roy Nelson's still pretty damn durable and tough. He's gonna win this fight.
I'm gonna disagree. I think Crow Cop does it, and I think Crow Cop finishes him as well. I think Crow Cop puts him to sleep, and because now I agree with you saying when you're talking about just their pure skill sets, Roy Nelson should win that fight. Like them at their primes. I mean, we saw that. Although Crow Cop wasn't quite in his prime. I don't know. Crow Cop has re-entered some sort of prime thanks to whatever needles he's found. I guess I don't know.
Prime.
Yeah. And we know how stringent Bellator drug testing is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, I like Crow Cop to win this because Roy Nelson's chin is something we need to question. We really need to question his chin.
Roy Nelson's?
Yes.
Over Crow Cop. Jay, let's look.
Crow Cop is on a 9-fight win streak. He's killing everybody. Granted, King Mo is probably the biggest name out of that bunch that I can think of on the top of my head. But still, like Roy Nelson cannot take a punch the way he used to. And his style is predicated on him being able to absorb damage. If one thing Crow Cop still has is the ability to kick your head into the rafters.
If against questionable competition, yes. Like Jay, if you can look it up, tell me how many TKO KO losses both men have in their careers, and I bet you Crow Cop's may be higher despite being on a 9-fight win streak.
But he's been fighting longer too, so
I don't know. Roy Nelson's got a ton of fights too. I think Roy Nelson may have more fights than him.
He might have more fights, but I know Crow Cop has fought over a longer period of time, and he fought as a kickboxer for a long time as well.
So he's got weakened chin from private kickboxing, then MMA. If we're talking to chin off, I'm still gonna go with Roy Nelson's and that scraggly beard.
Well, I mean, once again, you're wrong. Wrong.
I'm gonna double down and say you're double wrong.
Okay, well then, it's okay, Jason. Like I try to lead you. I try to lead you to wisdom, and you just do your own thing. It's all right. Ever since you started guesting on all these shows, man, you done got a big head.
Really,
Collider. Check yourself there, homie.
Really?
Check yourself there, homie.
Look at the stats. Look at those stats. 3 knockout losses. Crow Cop 6 knockout losses. Anthony, it's gonna be number.
Look how many more fights he has. But anyway,
let's count it. Let's do some math there. What's that? 48, 50, 51. We got 39, 49. He's got 2 more fights, Anthony. 2.
Hey. I just knew it added up to more. That's all I knew. And I love how I said how like at first you were like look at the stats, and then I started to tell you like the people can't see the stats. But then you started to say it, so what you're doing.
Yeah.
With all your podcast.
39 to 51. Okay, I got that one wrong.
Oh, look 39. At that. Oh my God. I'm once again wrong. Look at you. All right. So Czech Kongo versus Vitaly Minnikov 2. Who you got?
Damn, man. I'm still going to go Minnikov just because he can wrestle. The guy's a 4-time Sambo champion. That's pretty much what he did for the most part, other than a couple of groin shots in the first fight. Kongo was very confident. When I talked to him, he said he's going to have answers for everything. He said the reason why he lost the first fight was his training. He overtrained, so I guess he didn't peak properly going to the fight, which is not probably good at that age, which he was only like 38 at the time. I just still think that's always a weakness. Kongo lost to King Mo not too long ago from wrestling. Minnikov's just going to wrestle him. He's going to probably get – I wouldn't be surprised another decision. And this is only 3 rounds instead of 5, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling it going that way. I do think though that Minnikov might give him a little more on the feet. I think it's going to be a close decision too. I'm not. I kind of think this is going to be a slow crawl like the first one, and Minnick, I think he'll slightly win it. So yeah, there's that.
I mean, if he wins, though, the idea of Minnick 21-1 legit heavyweight fighting Bader in his first fight, that fascinates me. That's an interesting fight.
That's great too, because I think with Kongo, like there's an established path to beat him if you're the smaller guy that King Mo laid down.
Yep.
So I would much rather see, and also just for the sake of the lineal titles.
Yes.
You know, it would be very appropriate for Minnick to have not lost the belt in competition to now fight the current heavyweight champion. I think that would be a nice way to kind of tie those loose ends together. All right. And of course, MVP versus Paul Daley, the most anticipated fight of the weekend. Jason, what say you? Who you got?
I mean, I've already mentioned, I think MVP gets the win. I'm going to say second round TKO. You know what? You know, I wouldn't be surprised if some crazy shit like second round quits on chair or third round quits on his stool, because he made Dave Rickles quit. Dave Rickles is a pretty tough dude. You know, I could see like Daley, who gets easily frustrated, you know, maybe getting frustrated there and just like quitting in between a round because he doesn't want to deal with it. Because also remember, this is going to go 5 rounds. All the fights in the Grand Prix, Welter Grand Prix, are 5 rounds. So I guess somewhere maybe second round TKO or third round, in between third, fourth round, Daley just quits out of frustration, doesn't want to fight anymore.
Yeah, I think this is going to be MVP like styling on Paul Daley, and I think the range, the length is going to have a lot to do with it. Also, the fact that just as far as pure striking goes, MVP is just like crazy.
It's like a generational difference.
Exactly. It's like MVP is like this different breed of striker, and Paul Daley, as explosive as he is, and how much knockout power he has, it's a very basic like meat and potatoes style where it's going to be, you know, 1, 2, 3 right kick sort of thing. It's going to be very by the book. And one thing that MVP has shown is that the by the book approach just doesn't seem to work very well against him. No. And especially if you're just going to keep it on the feet. So I think MVP should win this one with style points. I think he starts having trouble when you mention names like Douglas Lima in that next round.
Yeah, I told this to a friend of mine too. That's what fascinates me about that fight is, one, I think Lima could definitely win because he's just that nasty striker. Lima made Daley wrestle, which shows you how nasty a striker he is. And when I talked to Lima the last time, months back, I had asked him about that possibility fight MVP, and I said to him, man, MVP and those skinny legs really seem like perfectly made for some Douglas Lima patented low kicks. And my man just pretty much gave like a maniacal giggle, like, you know, and didn't want to say anything. So, man, those low kicks on MVP skinny legs, especially he stands at that side. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, with that when he takes that straight karate stance. Yes. And have you ever watched? I can't remember the actual like type of competition it is, but the style of karate that he came from. If you ever watched any of their fights, like it's nuts. It is nuts. So do that once you figure out the name, because I forgot it. So that's a helpful hint for the people out there in these streets. All right. So we're going to move on to the who you got for UFC on ESPN 1. Kron Gracie versus Bruce Leroy. Alex Casseras, who you got?
You go first. I went first for Bellator. You go first for UFC.
All right. I'm going to go Kron Gracie. I think because Kron Gracie, like the name Gracie means a lot in the MMA world, and it would be nice when all this efforts to attract casual attention to have a Gracie back on the roster, back doing the thing. I think they matched Casseras up with him for a reason. Casseras will engage on the ground. He will. He's not. I don't see him being the one to just avoid it altogether. If you get a guy who's a pure striker, they'll probably try to avoid the ground game altogether, and then you can have some sort of stalemate almost. But Casseras, he's got submissions on his record. He's not a slouch on the grappling. I think he wants to challenge himself there, and I think Kron Gracie does what the Gracie family does if you get on the ground with them.
I think it was smart matchmaking by the UFC. And Casseras' name is known. Everybody kind of knows him on a level. He has a weakness to submission. He can be submitted. But honestly, I'm picking Casseras in this fight, despite his kind of ugly record. I think he's 14-11. Looking at Gracie, I don't think he's fought in 2 years. And the guys he's fought are those kind of typical, stereotypical Japanese grappler types. And without a doubt, they're probably talented, but they're not Gracie talented. So if you're going to put him in there grappling, he's probably going to win. But they're not strikers. Like, Alex Casseras can strike. And especially he's with the MMA lab now. And the MMA lab is turning out some guys that are doing some good stuff. One example being Henry Corrales. The MMA lab's a good gym, Benson Henderson gym. And he's there working with a lot of good fighters. I think they'll come up with a game plan to make sure that fight stays standing. And I think I can see him piecing up Gracie. Unless the only element that would be surprising if in that time away, Gracie's striking has gotten better. But outside of Neiman Gracie, Gracies do not strike very well. And I can see Alex Casseras' movement, his use of length being a problem for him. And I can see him probably winning a decision and easily.
Yeah, I mean, that outcome wouldn't surprise me very much, but I'm normally right and you're not, so we'll just take that.
Only in your mind.
Well, actually, because you killed on the 234 picks. At least you killed me on the 234 picks.
What did you do? I did 3-1, and I'm so mad. I thought I picked De La Rosa, and I put on the paper, on the email, the Kasem. And the whole weekend, I'm like, oh, I got De La Rosa.
Oh, yeah. See, I picked Kasem also, but I was because I keep playing like conspiracy theories with everything. Yeah. So if I just need to just look at and just evaluate the matchups instead of just playing all these mind games. And I try to sneak into like an upset pick to just see what's going to happen and try to get one up ahead of everybody. But yeah.
Wait,
no,
Jay
also.
He's trying to get his name out there. No, Jay, we're not going to say what you said.
No, we got to give Jay his props. Jay get his props. Jay put on our Slack chat. He says that Jay picked the last 3 events perfectly. Just saying, and he actually said Jay picked the last 3 events.
I know.
So
big time. He's talking
shout out to third person Jay. All right. Okay. So next fight, Paul Felder versus James Vick. Who you got?
You go first. You go. Keep going.
Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to go first. Oh man, I really was kind of one. I was really going back and forth with this one, but I'm going to lean toward Paul Felder. And I think because despite James Vick being such a big dude and having that length and stuff, I don't think he's going to get physical enough with Felder. And Felder only seems to falter against the guys who are either just more athletic, like an Edson Barboza, or they're just more physical, like a Mike Perry. And even then, it ain't easy.
Yeah.
So I think Paul Felder can get this one. I don't see him getting the finish, but I think he gets a pretty decisive decision win here.
Yeah, I was going back and forth too. For a while, I was leading Vic, but then just looking at the strength of schedule and yeah, like you just said, like as long as he sees certain type of fighters, Paul Felder usually has a good chance to win. He's like a just tough out for most people. But yeah, I felt Felder too. I think stylistically he'll be difficult for Vic. Yeah, Vic uses his length, stuff like that, big guy. But yeah, I same way. I feel Felder's gonna get this one.
Yeah, and Paul Felder too. I think his time in the commentary booth, man, I think it's going to play dividends for his fight IQ.
Yeah.
And he's never had bad fight IQ anyway. Like he's always been very sharp and intelligent in how he approached every fight, and I think we just see that get better.
Yeah.
All right, so the very last fight to pick for UFC on ESPN 1, Cain Velasquez versus Francis Ngannou. If it happens, who you got? Oh, yes, and I'm supposed to answer first. I was hoping you'd answer this one first so I have more time to think of something
I
to say.
Go first,
no, but it's all right. It's all right. You know what I'm saying? I got this.
You're scared to go, you know.
Hey, what? Okay. Okay. You know what time it is. All right, so I'm going to lean toward Cain Velasquez just because I honestly don't feel comfortable picking Ngannou at this point, but also I can see if you don't feel comfortable picking Cain Velasquez because at some point, very soon, he's going to jump in that cage and he's not going to be the Cain Velasquez that we know and love.
Yeah.
Or the Cain Velasquez that we know and you dislike. Just saying, but seriously, man, I think we are going to see him. We're going to see him age very rapidly at some point, and maybe that happens Sunday night. Maybe it does, but I think even if it does, but Kane still has a touch of that old Kane in him. I think he might be able to wear out Ngannou and beat him the way Stipe was able to beat him. As long as he avoids the huge punch, of course. But I think he'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you're 1,000% right. It's gonna happen. Like, certainly, sooner or later, he's gonna age. But luckily for him, he's in that one division where he's only 37. The champion's 39, about to be 40. It's a division where age does not have the effect it does in the lower weight class. So at least he's got a chance to come back from these injuries at his age. Yeah, same way. If he's gonna win, it should be the Stipe way. The fascinating thing to me is he fights a go forward, aggressive style. Stipe, when he fought him, Stipe fought very carefully and looking for those moments where he can get in on him, get a hold of him, and start to wrestle him. Like, is Kane's, like, is his nature, is his instinct to want to fight carefully, or which that team is great at game planning. Have they found a style where it's aggressive? They know how to put Ngannou on his feet in a certain way where he can't fire these monster shots. So, but he's just a skilled wrestler. He can transition the striking to the wrestling so well, more so than Stipe. So maybe he has something where he's got an aggressive style, makes it look like he's going up, and he's going to go low, and then this guy's going to be up in the air. So yeah, I'm going to go Kane. I'm not confident with it. It's hard to be confident against someone, gets Ngannou for someone that's been out for so long, but it's hard to doubt Cain Velasquez in pretty much almost every fight.
Well, before because we got one question from Jay to wrap the show, I just had to address the actual YouTube chat. So I just decided, I forgot to check it because normally I'm checking it while we're on. But someone asked if we have any information about the gay actor from Empire who was attacked by MAGA hat wearing racist white men was all made up. Do we have any information on this? No. Why the fuck would we have any information on this?
I don't know.
It's like, dude, have you not listened to a word? We sitting there talking about MMA and barely, like, we've mentioned nothing but MMA, and maybe we talked about comic books for a second. What in the fuck makes you think that we talk? Man, fuck out of here with that. Come on. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
That's like somebody's, like, grand uncle who was looking at a different video, but then like clicked ours by accident and started putting up in the comments, even not even realizing they in the wrong damn video.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, have you been listening to anything? Oh man, wow. Man, I swear these. Well, anyway, so Jay says, so what do you love about MMA now, and what was your first MMA love that got you hooked? And I guess, I don't know, he didn't repeat it, but I just say that Jay picked the last three events perfectly, just saying.
You said that already.
Yeah, but it came after the question. He already posted it, and I was like, what? Is that the next thing? And I already started saying it, so I didn't want to sound like a jackass. So yes, Jay picked. What I love about MMA is that Jay picked the last three events perfectly.
I hate that. I hate it. Love about MMA. The thing I love about MMA is the level of skill and the level of athlete, like the level of skill, athlete, and dedication, because these guys are not on guaranteed deals making like a league minimum 2.5, like they're still legitimate stars in the sport that are making 5 figures or paydays and they're still on show and win bonuses and maybe not getting their sponsorships, and they're still grinding away at the most arduous training program in any sport, and in pursuit of a dream. Like, this is the one sport that's on such a high level that it's still like dream seeking at the highest level. It's not like, oh, I made it to the NFL, now I'm about to get rich. Like, there's people in the UFC that are still making okay money in pursuit of like the better life and the title and all those things. I love that about the sport. Now, when it comes to my first MMA love, it's one name: Kimbo Slice. That beard, that bald head, that style, like he was from Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Like, I didn't like. I wasn't into MMA. My friend at work, who's like my closest friend, he was trying to get me into it. I was like, he's like UFC. I was like, I'm not gonna watch UFC. I got Showtime. Oh, they got this Elite XC. I'm gonna be different. I'll watch this Elite XC shit. I don't want to watch UFC. They'll tell me what to do. Started watching it. It's like, who the hell is this guy? What is with that beard? He's scary. He's killing Tank Abbott. What's happening here? So, Kimbo Slice, R.I.P. Rest in power. First MMA love.
All right. Not a bad list there. Not bad at all. So I say what I love about MMA now. I mean, this is just what I love about MMA in general, and like in boxing and kickboxing, just combat sports. I love one-on-one competition. I love the purity of it because you can talk all the trash you want. You can make more money. You can do. There's so many different ways that you can, in the outside world, best somebody. But when you get into that ring or you get into that cage, there is nothing but you and that other person, and the best fighter wins. And that's it. And there's no, you might have, you got a team as far as preparing you, but your coach ain't in there with you. Yep. Your teammates ain't in there with you. It's just you. And you have to prove yourself to yourself and to the next guy that's standing across from you doing the same thing. I love the purity of that. I love the simplicity. And I think it shows the best that we can be physically, mentally, and emotionally if it's done properly. That's just beautiful to me. And that's the one thing that always brings me back to this sport, even at times that I want to abandon it because, man, it'd be difficult sometimes.
Yes.
Now, as far as my first MMA love, I'd say the first. I'll just kind of hard for me to place it. You know what? One of my favorite moments watching MMA, I'll give that. When Benson Henderson and Anthony Pettis fought for the first time in the final WEC event. Of course, by this point, I'm already a diehard fan. I was already training. I was already watching everything. But that stands out to me in particular just because I had some life circumstances that I had lost my apartment in a fire and some other stuff happened. And so I ended up having to move back in with my grandmother for a little bit. And I'm like borderline depressed in my room, just like so sad that I'm back in this house and that event. And I was so looking forward to that event being the final WEC. And I decided to skip going out drinking with my friends at night, stay home and watch it. And I sat there in my little video game chair that I had, watching that on my little TV. And when Pettis jumped off, the fight itself was fantastic. One of the best fights of all time. When Pettis jumped off that cage, did that Showtime kick, I leaped out of my chair, kicked it over, was screamed at the top of my lungs, and my grandmother woke up and said, "What is your problem?"
I was just about to ask, what was grandma's response?
She was not happy about that. She thought I was a fool. She still thinks I'm a fool.
She probably was already in bed for like 3 hours at that point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She was knocked out. Man, I was so ass cracked for that one. That was terrible. Oh man, I'm complete trash for that one. But yeah, so that is one of, when I think of my love of MMA, I think of that moment right there. All right. So we've got one last Valentine's Day question for all you lovers out there. And I remember this one being in a thread a minute ago, and Jay decided to hold it back for Valentine's Day. Shout out to Jay for this one. King in the North, and apparently another one jumped on this question, Mean 357. But let's give King in the North the credit because I believe he said it first. The question is, why do fools fall in love?
Sex.
That's a damn good reason.
Sex is a hell of a drug. I don't know. Any other reason? I mean, because you could have friends and it'd be nice and normal and fantastic and no hard feelings, but the full on love is only coming with that sex.
Because like we're friends, but I ain't holding your hand, bro.
No.
Yeah,
no. I mean, maybe like a spooning, once in a while.
A little cuddle from time to time.
I mean, It's all platonic.
Whatever. but yeah, man. Like, why do fools fall in love? I guess chemistry, like brain chemistry and stupidity. Because man, don't nothing make you stupid like love. Yeah. We all, and if you have not lived a full life if you don't have a stupid love story.
Yeah.
If you don't have one of those, you have not lived a full life. I definitely have some of those, and I know it because before my wife and I became husband and wife, before we ever dated, we were best friends. We were like really good friends, and so we used to share each other's dating stories with one another. So now she uses this as cannon fodder.
Oh.
And yes, so I'm sure because she's in the bedroom right now. She's probably listening to me laughing. And as soon as I turn this off, she's gonna be like, "Yep." And I'm gonna remind you every day.
Pull out the cannon. She's gonna be pulling it on a rope.
Yeah, she's gonna put every day about how much my life has improved. So yes, I've set myself up for failure for the trenches. Thank you. This is for you, Sherdog.com.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, well, all right, Jason. So it's about that time to wrap things up. So please tell the people where they can find you, what you got coming out for Sherdog.com, and what other star appearances will you be making in the rest of the MMA media circuit, sir?
Well, first, I mean, we could talk further off the air. I'm actually, I applied yesterday and I got Cain credentials already for MMA for UFC Philadelphia. Question is, will you be in the area around March 30th?
It's actually possible. It's actually possible because I do need to go home to DC for a little bit. So I'm trying to plan that out now. And if I can sneak away, because I probably won't be able to do, I'm sure I won't be able to do like the media days and all that stuff.
Yeah, I won't be able to either.
Yeah, but if I can get in the building for fight night, I'll let you know. I'll let you know what happens there.
So with me, the usual stuff, Cheap Seats Chat on Twitter, Instagram. I'm at 999 Twitter. Someone get me to 1,000. I just need one more follow after 5 years to get to 1,000. Help a brother out.
Oh, please. You know what? Let me unfollow you real quick.
Oh,
and that's like, no, he's not. That's the hatred. Hey, I just jumped over 950, so I'm on the crawl too, baby.
I know you are quickly coming. I saw those Collider appearances for real. But yeah, Cheap Seats Chat on Instagram and Twitter. Look up an episode of Around the Cage on the Loudmouth Network. You can look up Around the Cage on YouTube or iTunes. It's on like a whole bunch of things. It's like the MMA version of Around the Horn. Made it to the final two, so close to winning the episode. But this week, super busy week in terms of Bellator stuff. I have about 5 different articles that'll be coming out this week, or already out, covering Bellator 215, 216. Czech Kongo article, Yaroslav Amosov, who's fighting Eric Silva, that came out today. Amber Lybrook, that I mentioned before. Austin Vanderford, who's going to be on the main card, opening up 215, and I'm forgetting somebody else. And a Minnick I'm going to have hopefully the next day or so. So look for all those articles on Sherdog.com.
Hey, it might have been easier to say who you aren't interviewing. You got it. Whoa, man! This
is why we spoon, because you lay on these lines like this and call me a mogul. I mean, it's smooth.
It's sweet talk, baby. All right, so as usual, you can find me on Twitter at Ant Walker MMA. That's also my Instagram. I'm actually going to make an effort to start posting things on there. Besides that really cool Thanos meme that I keep telling everybody about. So go ahead, follow me on Twitter, hit me up if you got any questions, comments, or concerns. All trolls are welcome. Yes, I want the smoke. So anyway, other than that, man, I got Ask Ant should be coming out tomorrow.
When's the next Collider spot? Did you do that already?
I did that there. That's out. Yeah. So I did another appearance on Collider's MMA Takedown show. So you can go to the Collider Sports podcast network and find that. I think they put a clip of it on their YouTube channel as well. So shout out to the homie Dennis for that one. And then also, shout out to Eddie too. He wasn't on this one, but Eddie cool. He's a homie too. So other than that, man, I'm going to be doing another post-fight show on my YouTube channel, the Walkout Network. That is going to be for Sunday night for UFC on ESPN 1. Maybe, I don't know, if y'all hit me up.
Sunday night?
That's Sunday night, yeah.
Really? Oh, I think
yeah,
it's Saturday. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that Sunday night. But Ask Ant should be coming out tomorrow, but I gotta write it after dinner with the lady, of course. So I'll be sneaking away time at my office to write that. Hope my boss isn't watching. If so, that's not what I'm gonna do because I never do that.
No.
All right. And then also, what else? Good, Bad, and Ugly. To wrap up the very busy weekend in MMA, we got Invicta, I think, tomorrow as well. So it's a lot of MMA that I'll try to watch all of it and get some thoughts. If you want to see any video content about the Bellator cards, please tweet me. Let me know that you want to see it, and I'll try to make it happen. Other than that, that will be it for this week in the trenches on Sherdog.com. So for Jason Burgos, I'm Anthony Walker, and you know exactly what you need to do, everybody. You need to stay beautiful. You need to stay positive. You need to stay incredible. You need to stay intelligent. You need to stay sharp. You need to stay witty out here in these streets. And
you need
most
to stay
of
in
all,
love on Valentine's Day.
Yes, you need to stay in love. You need to stay faithful. you need to be a good man, a good woman. That's what stay all that. And yes, of course, you must, by all means, stay sexy. I will see you when I see you. Peace.